Me. Right. Okay.
Talking about yourself there. Good
Yeah,
job.
it's my favorite topic, isn't it?
Yeah, you love it. You love it.
You know, anytime. Right. So, Krix, here we are today in episode 4 of the. Is it episode 4? Yeah, episode 4.
Yeah, feels like episode 50 or something. Took this long, but anyway.
Yeah,
here we
well,
go.
you know, we had a bit of a 3-month gap
Get
while
through
I
it.
had, dealing with some.
We sabbatical.
Yeah, just a wee little
few-
sabbatical. And so yeah, we took a bit of a break there. We recorded episode 3 months ago, and it took me this long to edit it, and that's why I think a couple of people pointed out at some points there was a couple of audio glitches. But is what it is. We don't give a shit, do we, Krix?
No, this is life, people.
Yeah,
you know,
exactly.
mistakes
Yeah,
are made.
we'll do it live anyway. So this is our current state of play for our ranker. We've rescaled things a little bit as well, so it might look a little bit different, but this is the current situation. As you can see, we've got a fairly good spread. I agree. I think I agree with most of our posts. It's been about 3 months since we last discussed this. I think I still agree with most of where we put things, right? I don't think there's anyone. Would there be anyone we want to change?
Yeah. Not really. Like, there's like, if anything, it may be like a few marginal ones. Like, but then is it even worth it? You know what I mean? Like, there's a few people on this list that I'd say like are very like marginally close to each
Yeah.
other. Like, I'd say one of those would probably be like Elena and Joe.
Yeah.
Maybe, but like either way, it could go either way. Like,
I would rate Elena slightly higher than Joan.
Yeah,
But
it's very marginal though.
mainly, yeah. The only person I think is a bit low is there's this one guy on the A list who's right in the middle of A tier.
Oh yeah.
I think he should probably be like 3 or 4 steps higher, you know? So, yeah, what we'll do is we'll give people a quick refresher of our metrics again that we use to rate everyone on, so that everyone knows where they stand. And then we're getting straight into rating the big K himself, Special K, as we like to call him.
L to the OG.
So we start off. We have 5 metrics that we like to rate our 100 politicians by, and that first metric is political acumen. Now, political acumen is basically your acumen, your knowledge. How well do you know politics? Of that's split into 2 subcategories that we use to figure out your score. So, number 1 of that is lay of the land. How well do you know the political board? How well do you know where all the pieces are? You know, if this was a game of chess, do you know where the king is? Are you keeping an eye on where the rooks are? Are you keeping an eye on where the pawns are all moving about? And, as we can see, we've already got a couple of pawns on this board. Down at the very bottom there. But there we go. They're good at it, so we don't disparage them. Political theory is the next one. That is your knowledge of politics as a mechanic. So how well do you know, how politics works, Do you know, how well do you know your power of 3s, Brexit means Brexit. Hands, face, Those phrases, pardon?
Mint
forever. Yeah, exactly. All very well-known common phrases. Our next big metric is political ability. So on political ability, that is your general ability to do politics. So, and that doesn't necessarily mean, if someone scores low on this, they're bad at politics. It's just your general day-to-day ability. And that's split into 2 ways. Governing, which is when you're in power, how effective are you at, delivering and using it? And, not necessarily delivering, in terms of what people want, because that's not what politics is about. Politics is about power. And the perpetuation of power. And so, but at the same time, how well are you achieving your goals? And then also, our second one there is organisation. And I think there were a couple of people who were a little bit confused what we meant by organisation, because we said organisation is about organising political campaigns and political parties and stuff like that. What we don't mean is, I've been in a big political party and I've been really effective as that part of it. Organising is literally your managing, right? That's your ability to run things. If you're not directly managing and putting those things together, that doesn't count towards you. Otherwise, I think Soundy would be scoring very highly on there for his R&P days, right?
Top of the list every time.
We haven't got to Soundy yet. Are we doing Soundy? We are doing Soundy, aren't we?
Yeah, of course. It wouldn't be a list without Soundy.
We need.
You can't have 100 politicians without politician number one, though.
Yeah, exactly. Do you know what? I've just remembered. Completely going off tangent here. The It's Only Second Rate video that I did a couple of years back? In that, Jafar says, my thumb is number one on every list. So at some point, we do need to rate Jafar's thumb on this tier list. Anyway. The next big metric is political electability. Now, political electability it's what it says on the tin. It's how good are you at getting elected, and we split that into 3 subcategories. So number 1 is public relations. Now, public relations is your ability to take a message and spread it and put it out there. So, for example, that could be a message in terms of you want to advertise yourself, you want to advertise your campaign, you want to push your message. How well are you at spreading that? But also public relations is the flip side of that. It's the dark side, as we like to call it, which is how well are you at getting a message, a negative message, or taking something positive and turning it negative, or taking something negative and turning it positive, or twisting it around. And so that's public relations and political electability. The next one is base support. And really with base support, we're just saying with that is, if you were to run an election tomorrow and you weren't to campaign at all, how well would you do? And if you can get elected to, president by not campaigning much at all, you're 10 out of 10 on base support, That's basically how it works. And then finally, we've got outreach, which is basically the bread and butter of our politics on these CityCraft servers, which is going into people's DMs and whipping votes, and your ability to basically get those votes and get outreach out to people and get them to vote for you. So that's our outreach, and that's political electability. Our 4th category is political networking. Which is again really important. As we said earlier, it's not what you know, it is who you know. It's all about who you know. You can't. No man is an island. You cannot do politics on your own. And we split that into 3 subcategories. And this one's really interesting because there's a lot of people who will score really highly in one of these subcategories and then really low in another category. But you need to this is something that's really important to balance. So our first subcategory is building network. How good are you at making those contacts and putting your network together? Our next subcategory is using network. That is, once you've got that network in place, how good are you at actually getting them to do what you want them to do? Because as I say, every politician at some point in your time, you'll have had something that you need to do. You'll be in Congress and you have your fellow Congress people and you'll be trying to get a bill passed. How easy is it for you to get your friends to actually do it? Do you need to horse trade with them, or can you just literally go up to them and say, vote for this, and they'll go, yes, sir. That's what we like, isn't it, Krix?
Absolutely, no questions asked. Sign the dotted form.
Literally, when they give you the blank check and they just send you the they send you the I agree to vote for this one, so you can vote in their absence. That's the best. They don't even know what they're voting for. I
remember that. God.
Those are the days, man. Those were the days.
Yeah.
And then the last subcategory of political networking is maintaining network, and so that is basically when you use your network and do you burn bridges? There's so many people that they're really good at getting people on board. I'm really, really good at making new friends and make really good first impressions, and they're good at convincing people to do things. But once people get to know them, people just turn around and start hating. I can't think of anyone in particular who that really applies to, though, in this call. Right?
No. Why both of us, honestly.
But yeah, maintaining it was really important. But it's not so. I personally, that's my weakest category of all the subcategories. My maintaining network is really quite poor because people just think I am batshit insane. Which are they wrong? The final of our 5 categories is my personal favourite, political manoeuvrability. And this is basically, your manoeuvrability. How quick are you in politics? And this split into two subcategories. Crisis handling. So, if there is a crisis, if there's a problem, if there's something that needs to be done, how good are you at doing it? How good are you at fixing it? And conversely, how good are you at causing a crisis? The people who are really, really good at crisis handling, they're like hand grenades. You pull the pin, you throw them into a room, and then you just forget about them because they're going to cause so many problems for the enemy camp, That's how it works in politics. In these servers, sometimes you can just someone who's really good at crisis handling, they can just wake up and they can choose violence, and that day then becomes whatever that they wanted to.
If you've ever had your seat frozen by Dusty, I think you know what we mean.
Yeah, exactly. It's dark. The last subcategory here, just taking a sip of water there, just getting a bit parched from all the talking. Oh.
Yeah, he never shut the fuck up.
The last subcategory here is debating, which is quite apt to talk about talking because it literally is your ability to talk to people and your ability to, when you're in a debate one-on-one, and that can be multiple types of debates. So that can be a voice debate, that can be a text debate, that can be whatever. It's your ability to swoop and dive and, take out your opponent and seize control and make yourself look good.
There is a messaging element to that as well. I think it doesn't need to be like a formal debate necessarily. It's just your ability to communicate your side, right?
A lot of these subcategories have crossover in a lot of the ways, but at the same time they can be, for example, someone who's really good at public relations can be normally quite good at debating, but they're not necessarily the same thing, So those are our categories and those are our metrics. What we, as we'll normally do, is if there's anyone who we think we're going to rate as a B, definitely people who we're going to rate as an A or S tier, we're going to be going through all the subcategories for them. Anyone who's going to be a C or a D or an F, we're not going to really go into too much detail, I'm afraid, guys, because otherwise we would only be on, we'd only probably still be on Aladdin, if we were going through that much detail for every single person. So, I
guess we'll get through me quick enough.
Yeah. Oh no. Well, we're gonna listen. Right. Speaking of which, big old Special K. Now, the one thing Krix and I agreed when we were going into this is we're gonna let the other person do the majority of the talking for that person's thing. Now, if you remember back to my video, I don't remember too well, but I probably did talk a lot about mine. That's just me. You guys know me. I'm an asshole.
Fighting your case.
I got to beg my case. I got to plead my case. Krix, you feel free to chime in whenever you want, but well, I guess we'll get started on you. So, Krix, you've had a long and storied career, haven't you?
Yeah, God, it's been a while.
Well,
a lot of these people on this list have met me, been campaigned by me, and have left the server. So,
left the server because of me.
Yeah, there's probably a few here that would say that.
Well, yeah.
God.
I mean, listen, that's politics, Krix, as everyone will know, I mean, I don't think it's too. Yeah, and I'm not just saying this because he's in the VC and because despite all appearances, I do kind of like the guy as a friend. He's one of, if not one of the top politicians that DC's ever had. I think, everyone has a Krix story, probably, at some point in their time on DC. I mean, not so much recently, because you've kind of taken a step back ever since the whole steadying the ship.
Yeah, it's definitely steady.
Yeah, very steady.
Steady their song, you use your
very steady. Do you know what it's like? They steadied the ship so well, the waters aren't even choppy. The waters are just sloshing along, and the boat is just there, bobbing along. There's no wind. There's no wind moving the boat. The boat's just in the middle of the ocean, just sort of bobbing there, It's very steady, though. Very steady. It's not going anywhere. But Krix, historically, we all have stories of Krix. I mean, going back on DC specifically, he was president. Before that, he was Speaker of the House. DC's second president. because the first one was West.
Oh,
First one was West, and the second one was Krix. Krix was, of course, the first president to actually win a presidential election. That was actually contested as well, because West won unopposed, if I'm correct.
yeah.
So
It was an interesting
Yeah, so
period.
Krix is the first person to actually win the presidency, win it, which is no small feat. And then obviously election after election after election, won there. DRP, RNP, pretty good. So I think we'll go through. I think you're probably just gonna hit B tier. So we'll probably go through your rankings for you, right, Krix?
You're too
Yeah,
generous.
yeah,
though.
well,
You're too generous.
This is what they say, buddy.
You know,
I'm a river. I am a river to my people. So, Krix with regards to political acumen. So, political acumen, Krix scores quite highly here, I think. Lay of the land. I honestly don't think there's anyone who I would trust more in their opinion of the lay of the land than Krix. Krix really gets, for the most part. I mean, you have made a couple of bad calls sometimes, and you've missed certain things or certain people certain things that have surprised you. But for the most part, I would say your lay of the land's pretty damn good, right?
I'd like to think so. Yeah, I was sharper when I was fully engaged in the server, like COVID times. Obviously, the more you are engaged with the politics on DC, and the more people you speak to, the more you know where people are. Just off one conversation with someone, you get a lot of information. So I guess I've been around that long, just talking to people and knowing where people are has kind of helped with that.
I would say that's probably it's like lay of the land is Krix's bread and butter. He has a couple of really good things that he's really strong at, but lay of the land is really good. Political theory, on the other hand, your political theory is good. You're really good at you know the minutia, but I wouldn't say you're anywhere near the top of that with regards.
No, I would agree with that.
I think
I do work with anyone that's knows me, I guess, which I'd assume a lot of the people that watch this video are DC people. So
I'd be very surprised if there are people who weren't DC people watching this, and I'd be even more surprised if there were people who weren't DC people who were DC people who didn't know who you and I were watching this. Not just because out of the fact that we're two of the most infamous players on DC.
Not for good reasons,
but just because why would they find this video otherwise? Or care to listen to two fucking old farts? Well, one old fart and one slightly younger fart, but still.
Yeah. So I guess I would have relied on you and Dusty a bit for this section, because just I'd say that's quite similar for a lot of people. You'll find people that kind of compliment you in the areas you're not necessarily as strong in.
Yeah. So yeah, overall you're quite strong in political acumen, but again, I think your lay of the land really holds you up, but your political theory lets you down a little bit. But overall, you're very strong on that, about a 9 out of 10, quite easily on political acumen. On to political ability. Now, this is where you and I disagree a little bit. Not even a little bit, but quite a lot. I think, personally, when it comes to governing, I'm not going to lie, Krix, I've never seen you do shit, okay? I've never seen you do you spend so much time having to perpetuate your own power because you're putting out fires, right?
Yeah, I think what you said, what you're saying is completely dead on. On DC, I really haven't had many opportunities to actually govern, because obviously I'm fighting for the dark side, doing schemes, causing chaos, and you'll always have a few police officers chasing after you, a few staff members, a few health and safety people knocking at your door when you're going that route. So it doesn't leave a lot of time
as we like to call them.
Yeah. So terrible.
It's terrible what they're doing to our country. Anyway.
I think I did do stuff as president. I was only in there for 6 weeks though. I did a few projects. I guess city server wise, I would nearly compare I know it's not a DC political raider, but I can always bring up my premiership on Stratham. I did do a lot of projects there. I think even End can attest to that, who wouldn't be my number one fan. He came over and saw some of the projects I was doing and was pretty impressed.
You did the Olympics as well. That was a major project, right?
Yeah, there was no infrastructure there at all for that, so that all had to be built and organized, and then the whole Queen Street renovation. But that's not really a DC, a DC feat. So
But even then, I think overall, I mean, when it comes to again, you can be an effective. I also think sometimes you lack a vision with your governing, because it is about just power and maintaining power. There isn't really it isn't really about lowering taxes or there isn't a vision there.
it's about the mansion on the hill at the
Your
end of the day,
mansion
you
on
know?
the hill, yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. Who else's mansion?
Well, you
Like,
you
what?
don't. So
It's my hill. It's my hill. Who's gonna take it?
anyway, and then on to our second criteria for this organization. One of the things I would say with Krix is early Krix were rated very high on this, and then along came the RNP, and Krix's abilities just really shone through there with the RNP. I mean, the RNP is probably one of, if not the most effective political parties on DC. Maybe not the most, but definitely up there in terms of effectiveness as a political party, and the way it was organized, the way it was built, the way it even started. I remember when Krix first started the RMP, talking to him about it. I was banned at the time, obviously. Still am, believe it or not. Weird that.
Mental.
I know, tell you. Anyway, what's a guy got to do? Anyway, no. But the RMP, I remember when Krix started that, and he was talking to me about it, and a week later it would come up again in conversation, and all of a sudden, the entire Libertarian Party had become a faction in the RMP, the Libertarian faction of the RMP, which was very interesting because they were libertarians in a fascist party. So I don't know how they balanced that, but that just goes to show how well it was organized as a party and how well it was put together. And with this, I definitely would give Krix a 9.5 out of 10. I think. I think there's no.
I remember with the RNP, like obviously having been in like city servers for so long, like you get to know so many people.
Yeah.
Like I had just come from BC at that point, where I'd worked really closely with like Unity, Poem, Dusty, and I really didn't do any work like on the political side because it was just like a step lower than DC. Like all that was like delegated off to Dusty and Poem and Unity to handle. And I really wanted to just kind of go back to like the DRP routes that I did, where you're just starting a party from the the ground up, where you have like no one and nothing, and you're just going out there raw recruiting.
And you're not relying on your old contacts to build that up.
Exactly.
You're building something from scratch, and that's with the RMP. It was impressive as fuck how a whole new level of politician came in overnight, and the rest is framed in infamy. I think.
It's definitely a big thing. Like I think throughout DC, like you'll notice these big political parties, like it enables new people to come up. Like the amount of people that joined and stayed on DC because of like political parties, like the DRP,
really
and even, like to Diggy's credit, like the BDP, like you joined the BDP. That was like an interesting organization for you to be part of when you joined.
Well, I turned against them within a week, secretly.
But yeah, you started there.
That's how I started. I mean, yeah, I guess I started there, but I'm a traitorous bastard. So.
Yeah,
but
you just these political parties are important.
But even then, like even with Mint, Mint was another political party where down and out people who weren't ever part of a political party before, they joined it, and suddenly they became active in the political scene, and that's so important. Everyone knows that I lurk on DC and I'm always around, and I've got a million alts and whatever. But I don't actually, but maybe one or two. Anyway, but I see it nowadays, and this is nothing. It's just that whole ethos and that whole relationship that the server used to have. It's gone, and it's completely eroded away. So yeah, it's a real shame to see, because as much as I disparage DC, I do love it as a concept. Yeah, and it's the community that I love more than anything else. One of the owners is okay. Anyway, I'll let people figure out which. I'm feeling spicy today, aren't I?
You're loving it.
Oh,
You're loving it.
Cool. So yeah, that's political. I'd say about 8.5 overall. Again, so scoring very high, but not breaking in that 9 for political ability, just mainly because of your governing ability, which I would rate lower. On to political electability. Now, this is the one where I rate Krix very lowly. And actually, looking on our sheet here, Krix, from what we've agreed, I think you're too high on this. When we previously talked about this, we put Krix as a 6.
Mm-hmm.
Honestly, Krix, your public relations is really bad. Like,
yeah,
you do not give a shit.
I really don't care, but I think I have gotten a little bit better at it, I think, to myself, like, since early days. Like, I definitely, like from working with you, I definitely have, like, learned the importance of, like, messaging and stuff a little bit more. And, like, you know, spinning a story and, like, propaganda. Like, I'll go into, like, politics chat and just start rambling about, like, you know, my political opponents and how they're ruining this nation and how they're...
And that's the only reason why I think actually maybe a 6, because you are good at... You're good at
negative PR for people.
You're really bad at positive PR for yourself.
Like, you remember? I think I did, like, the whole thing with Dart really well. Remember when I, like, built... You remember when I, like, slandered him?
Poor Dart. Like... Poor Dart. Like, Dart was being a genuinely good person, seeing the hideous amounts of corruption that Krix was doing, like the pure hideous amounts of, and Dart was like, right, I'm gonna do something to say, and Krix just opened out on him, and to this day people still hear the words Dartan man political hack together, you know, like it's so bad, but it's politics, you know, that's what it is. And Dart joined that arena and he wasn't ready for it, you know, and it broke him. So yeah.
Oh, actually, he joined that arena when he was on the courts. Did you not know he was running a political party?
Yeah, he was making a political party while he was on the court. Did you not see the metadata of the photo? That was not faked at all. Not faked at all. There was no trickery there, you know. Oh god.
Yeah.
Yeah. So major props there. In terms of your negative PR, but really let down in terms of your positive PR for yourself. And I think it'd be so easy for you to get better at positive PR. It's just you do not care about it. You just don't give a fuck. But like, it'd be so easy for you to occasionally pose for a photograph and have someone put together like a shoddily put together article that just talks about how you're visiting a police station or whatever. Like,
you know who was River was really good at that for the RNP. I mean, yeah, for the RNP. He does film in real life. And he was really good at that, like, messaging. Like, I remember he, like, organized, like, a few rallies for us, and he organized, like, a load of posters and stuff, like... So, I don't know, I've kind of always found people that have been good at that.
Well, one of your biggest... And we'll get to this in a minute. One of your strengths is that you find people to fill your gaps. But let's move on. We'll get to that when we get to political networking. On to next stage of political ability, base support. Krix's base support is always been very high. I think anyone... we'll see if Krix was to go. I mean, this happened. You see, I know this is DC, but when the City RP had its first elections, Krix ran. Krix just decided to declare, just for a joke. He'd logged onto City RP like 3 or 4 times and done like a load of. I think you were just mostly mugging people, right? When you were just having fun. And Krix came 6th in that election, I think, or 7th. I can't remember. But there were 5 seats up for grabs, and Krix finished. Like there were like out of 14 candidates. Krix got like 12 votes, I think it was, or something like that, 10 or 12 votes, and he didn't do any campaigning. They just voted for him because they saw Krix on the ballot, and that is what base support is all about. And Krix is someone, if Krix declared for the House tomorrow, he'd win the election. He wouldn't have to campaign at all. People would vote for him, you know. So that's just the way it is. So yeah, base support about an 8, I would say. It's not quite pushing up there really high because you do have a lot of people who hate you so much that, you know, they're never going to vote for you. But
yeah, I probably deserve
it.
Well,
you know, what do we really deserve? And then finally, on political electability, we have outreach. Now, we mentioned this briefly with Dusty, and Dusty is insanely good at. Sorry, I just scrolled up and saw what we put for Bardia for outreach. 0.
That was a fun house election. There's only one vote for himself, I think, something like that.
On the outreach, I think, you know, Krix, with the same as Dusty, they're two. If Dusty and Krix were on the same side whipping votes, you've lost the election. They are both of them are so good at reaching out to people, getting votes, and not only that, the key thing is reaching out to people, getting votes, and then when they tell you, oh, I've got this person to vote for us, you know that they've actually got them. Because there's so many times and so many people, myself included, if I go and say to Krix, oh, Krix, I got so-and-so to vote for us, he'll be like, oh, sure you did. And before we know it, I said, oh yeah, I probably got about 12 votes and I've only got an 8, So I've not been 100% right there, Whereas Krix, if Krix says I've got 12 votes, chances are he's got 11 or 12, right?
Yeah. And chances are you got 4 out of 12. 8, come on.
Shut up. I'm not that bad. I'm pretty good. I'm pretty good, you bastard. Listen, I'm talking nice about you here. Why do you want to fucking...
You're great.
Holy shit. Anyway. Next up... Oh god, we're going a bit long here.
Yeah.
Political networking. Building network. Krix is on his network. Building network 9 out of 10. Really good at generating a network, building a network, getting people on side. I think, you're really good at reaching out and networking. Again, is one of Krix's main things. We talked about this earlier. You whenever you need people to get people into your site, you always find someone to fill that gap. When it was the early days of DC, when he was having trouble with messaging or whatever like that, he had someone. Krix and I work very well together. We complement each other in some ways. The only reason we don't complement each other is because we both have massive egos and we both believe that we should be in charge. So one day we'll figure that one out. One day you'll remember. One day you'll realize that I am the better choice candidate to be in charge, and we'll just.
I am the chosen.
I am the chosen one, indeed. But yeah, using network, I don't know if you've ever been part of Krix's network, but if you're in Krix's network, normally you're gonna do what he says, or he's gonna be able to get you on side. I mean, one of the big things with Krix is, Krix is really good with his allies. You look after your allies, and your allies are gonna look after you, right? And that's really important in politics. I mean, if I'm working in politics and Krix asks me for a favor, it's not even asking for a favor. He just says, "Oh, can you do this for me?" and I'll do it. And if I need something, I'll do it. And we never, ever, ever keep track. Like, I will never turn around to Krix and say, "Oh, I've helped you out 5 times now. You need to help me out this time." It's always just, "Can you help me out of this? Can you help me out of this?" Right? And it's always helping each other out. It's throwing each other that bone whenever we need it. And that's what Krix is really, really good at. And that really feeds into maintaining your network as well. I think this is let down a little bit in terms of maintaining network, because one of the things that you keep talking about recently is how people you'll build them up and you'll train them up and then they'll stab you in the back, because you've taught them the tricks of the trade and all of a sudden then they're being a shit. And so I think that lets you down a little bit on maintaining your network. But overall, I think when you're networking, it's a 9.1. I think we said really, really, just really strong. There, it's definitely. I would say your networking is definitely your strongest skill set, and rightly so. I think it's most important for you. And finally, on political maneuverability, crisis handling, very strong as well. I think anyone who been on DC, Krix is very, very good at handling problems, and if something comes up, someone's not voting his way, if The only real crisis I think that you massively failed was the when you lost your presidency, but that was a long time ago, and you've learnt a lot since then, right?
Yeah, it wouldn't happen today.
It wouldn't, and you would never have had an interim as speaker,
Just many things.
To be honest, and someone else would have been speaker, and they'd have dissolved the house for you, and then you'd been fine. But there we go. So. That wouldn't have happened today. And when it comes to debating, I mean, anyone who's seen, especially nowadays when they see Krix debate, I mean, really talk about not giving a shit. And that really benefits Krix in his debating. Krix he just doesn't care. Do you, man?
It's all a bit of crack fun,
and it works really because there's no stakes. And so when Krix is debating someone, he'll pull out the most ridiculous lines, but people will lap it up and they'll find it funny. And that's really what it's really about. I mean, it's and the other candidate looks like a fool because they can't keep up because they're worried about appearing professional. So yeah, really, really strong there. Overall, very, very strong person, Krix. Politically, I would say you're really, really probably the top of puppet tier.
Yeah, that's about right.
No, in all seriousness.
You've been a good master, Donut.
Pardon?
You've been a good master.
Oh, well,
to
you
me.
know, listen, what can I say? All along. No. I think Krix is definitely, much to my annoyance, you're in S tier. And I personally, I had a couple of choice words about Diggy when we talked about Diggy, in terms of his ability, back when we first did this series. I think that Krix is definitely better than Diggy politically. If it were to be down to Krix and Diggy politically, it would be a bloody fight, maybe a difficult fight, but I think Krix would probably win, purely because Krix would keep a tighter group and a more dedicated and focused group. And overall, I think Krix's abilities would just edge out Diggy that much. So, Krix,
I think Diggy's really, really strong. The only reason I think, me and Diggy have never really went against each other because it's always been that kind of Cold War. You know what I mean? Like it would just be too bloody. Maybe with the staff side, Diggy would edge out. With that weighing on the scale. I think my network and alliance, my people A, B, C, D, is the reason I would win, not me. I think it's always been why I do well is because of the other people I work with and my alliances. So I thought that would be my reason.
I would say, begrudgingly, I would say top of S tier. God.
Other people might disagree with that as well.
Yeah.
You're all free to your
everyone's entitled to their opinions. Can you believe we've done 37 minutes?
Yeah, we might have to try and scale that down somehow.
We'll
see where you can tighten up.
I don't think we can. I think we're just having a good crack. We haven't got that many people left to go in this video, so we knew we'd talk about this one for a while. So, I think, God, that was a bit long. Right. So there we go. Krix. Next, Laser.
Laser. So someone I've worked with really closely for a long time. Someone that is really good to work with. Laser and I have a really good working relationship. He's really trustworthy, loyal to the cause. We're on the same page with stuff. And if there is ever a disagreement, it's always a case of, right, let's talk about this, work this out, and move forward as a collective, which is so important in politics. It's a numbers game. It's your side against someone else's side. You beat their side, you kill them, you move on to the next group. Politics is never a game of individuals, it's always a game of groups, largely. Or else, if you're an individual, you're going to get messed up by bigger groups of people. Laser really understands that, and he works together with people well. His skills, any input, Donut?
Not really. I don't know Laser too well as a political operator. I just know Laser. The main reason I know Laser is because of his major gaffes, and his major where he sort of drops off and where he makes mistakes, right?
Yeah, I think Laser has made a few mistakes. I remember Dusty always mentions the Alex the Lion scenario where he got caught bribing, and Dusty had to burn a lot of political capital at my behest to save Laser in that situation.
And it still didn't work out because it was that big a fuck. Fuck up.
It didn't work out. I think he survived it, but it cost him in Mahad the presidency. Yeah. That was a slam dunk.
It was a slam dunk, and that was the thing. Deadwax was such a bad candidate. Laser would have been VP and then probably gone on to be president after that. That just delayed his presidency by a couple of terms.
But he was president.
Yes.
He did get there, and I'll be honest, it wasn't largely due to me. I wasn't around all that much at the time. The RNP was there, that helped him a bit, but he did he did do work himself, and he got there. And he has skills. I think he's pretty good.
I will say he would have lost the presidency there were multiple times when he would have lost the presidency had it not been for the larger support network on the dark side there.
Yeah. I think networking wise though he's good at that.
Yeah.
I think that would probably be Laser's strongest one. He's really good at getting to know people and getting, on good terms with people.
He's really nice guy. He's a really chill guy.
Laser's connections with Drew on the courts, I didn't have that, court to pull. Laser pulled that himself. He has people of his own that he's able to, call on that. That really, really helped him. He's not bad at debating. He's not great either. I think he's decent there. Crisis handling, not too great. That would be the weaker side, I guess. Political theory, lay of the land, I'd say like medium. He knows stuff. He does know other stuff. He'd be like average there. Political ability, kind of average, maybe a little bit above average. Like he's a competent guy. Like, but like I wouldn't say he's top of the pile. So for me, Laser is in this range of B bottom-ish to very top of C. That's kind of where
I would say. I would definitely lower than Ian, definitely higher than Dart. I would probably say top of C tier.
Top of C.
Because I think if you're in B tier, there are 2 of our 5 metrics. There are 2 of our 5 there's in B tier. There's 1 of our 5 metrics that you are like one of the best at, and I just don't think there's any of the 5 metrics that Laser is like better than anyone else at. Really, you know.
Yeah, I think that's probably fair. Yeah,
I mean, for Ian, you know, his political political electability is super high. You know, for Inter, his political maneuverability is really high.
I think that's fair enough.
Whereas I think for Laser, I would say he's good in a lot of things, but it's not really. It's jack of all trades, master of none kind of thing with Laser a little bit.
So on to Nikki then, I guess.
You can. I have no. I didn't even. Nikki's one of those people who just is a Diggy sub, isn't it?
Yeah, Nikki worked really close with Diggy. Nikki is someone that had a lot of potential, and she was kind of earmarked that this is someone that's going to be like the first female president of DC. We all thought when this was like. I think it was like during the Austin presidency kind of period. It was kind of the expectation that she was going to come in there as consumers VP. Then she dropped off. And then Gold got in, obviously. So Nikki, very competent. Just didn't really do a wild pile. Like, kind of similar to Ian in that regards. Like, there's a lot of overlap here between the two. Like, really competent, but just didn't do much on DC. And wasn't really strong at the like fundamentals of the Minecraft politics and what's important in this arena. Like the vote whipping and stuff like that. There was like a reliance on the SMP and BDP political parties for that. So I'd be putting her similarly enough to Ian, but I would say Ian just had a bit more going for him. And Laser was president. I think so. It's like you're looking at somewhere around here. Even Bezer was president, and these people. Like I just don't think you could put Nikki over
Bezer
them.
was president at a very different time, wasn't he? So it's a very different. It's a very different server. Very different server.
I suppose maybe like here then.
I don't know. I don't know her at all. I just know. I know. I know her by name once, I think, but.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't think I could put her over 1950 just purely because of contributions and like the network 1950 had. I think that's probably right.
Lucky Perms.
Okay. Lucky
I know
Perms
Lucky
was
Perms from the shop and the. Yeah, that's it really.
Yeah, so Lucky Perms, someone that Dusty would actually have a lot more knowledge about than me, even, but was in Dusty's first like real political party.
We did ask Dusty about Lucky Perms, didn't we?
Yeah, I'm not sure what he said. It was this long ago, like 3 months.
Yeah, Dusty said Lucky Perms. I can't really remember exactly what he said now. Good guy, I think, but not too strong on the fundamentals. Just your general political operator. I think when it comes to like political ability, very middle of the road, very average. You know.
I know. Like Lucky Perms was in Dusty's political party. I think it was. I forget what it was called, Dusty, but I think it was like the nationalists. It wasn't that. It was. You know what it was called anyway, Dusty. Dusty managed like this big merger. Like me and Dusty. This is when me and Dusty started working together. I wanted him outside my political camp so he could bring more people into the camp. Yeah, the NCP. There we go. And he managed to get a merger with Lucky Perms' party, the Conservative Party, and he kind of like engulfed their party and a few others. And that's kind of what I know Lucky Perms from. He's not C tier. No. He's below Jonte, he's below Drew, he's below Dr. Explosive, Jedi. He's about Ansgard level.
Is he above? Is he lower than Jedi? Jedi is not.
Jedi. Yeah, Jedi was VP, and I think Jedi probably has a bit more skills than Lucky
Again,
Worms, to be
Jedi was
honest.
VP at a very, very, different time. I don't think.
Well, yeah, but maybe Doctor. He's not above Doctor Explosive anyway. He's there. Yeah,
I wouldn't say
that's what he
Jedi
is.
would ever be VP back in the heyday of DC.
Oh no, definitely not.
Probably not even a secretary. Anyway.
Probably not. No.
It's just the way it is, guys. Right. Simply Maddie.
Right, Maddie.
I've had some interaction with Maddie recently on the City RP server, and I had a lot of interaction with Maddie back in the day during my first run on DC, my first 40 days. I was only on DC for 40 days before I was banned. Or 42 days.
Well, that was this was Maddie's second run on DC.
Yeah, so Maddie's second run. I know Maddie has a long and storied history on DC. She very much was a firebrand figure, very much a anti-establishment figure, I think. Is that correct?
Maddie was the establishment, and then she left and became anti-establishment.
Right. Okay.
A bit like how I was anti-establishment and became the establishment briefly. The opposite way around. Yeah, so Maddie, big political figure, actually was someone that I kind of used and worked with very closely to launch the DRP. A lot of Maddie's friends were the first members of the DRP, and Maddie was the one of the first people on the leadership committee of the DRP. Yeah. And some people might remember the video we made attacking Ann's administration, and Maddie was in that video for the DRP. Maddie was secretary, big political figure, was in the house with me. Probably could have betrayed me and got deputy speaker under Bob, but that would have worked really bad for both of them, I think, in the long run. But she had a lot of influence, and I think she struggles to turn that influence and social power into political power.
Well, I think she
struggles for that.
Maggie, I call her Maggie for a second. Then. I think the thing with Maddie is she's really, really good at seizing an opportunity, and she knows when there's opportunities in front of her. She knows the right opportunity to take almost every time. Right? It's uncanny.
She does have really good political instinct. She knows when there's a dying horse. She knows when to jump. She understands who's good at politics, who's bad, who knows what they're doing, and who doesn't. She understands all those fundamentals. Yeah. She just hasn't done anything big on her own on the political front. Right. So I'm probably thinking for Maddie, it's C tier, top of C tier.
I would say top of C tier. Yeah, I mean, I'm trying to...
She's above 1950 in my opinion, and I think she's above Dark.
Yeah,
and I think she's probably above Laser.
I don't know about that. Maybe, yeah. I don't see Maddie making the same mistakes that Laser's made, right?
And I think Maddie probably has a bigger independent following of her own to command. Yeah. I think she does have her group similarly to how we have our group, but it's just not a political group
at all. It's really not very. It's very, and they're very fair weather, and she knows that as well. I think.
Yeah, they're not really up for a fight as much as she is, and that kind of just hurts her a bit. Right, on to Masked Wolf, a wolf in sheep's clothing.
Masked Wolf, a long-time person on DC who never really achieved anything of any significance at all. And is always sort of the butt end of a lot of jokes on DC's history, I think, right?
Yeah, the one thing I remember about Masked Wolf is I went to do a corrupt deal with them as magistrate, and I needed them to rule a certain way. I was a known political heavyweight at this time. They really wanted to go somewhere on the courts, and they fought with me for no reason at all. It was really per political.
It wasn't even from a matter of principle, if I remember correctly, as well. It wasn't a matter of I can't do a corrupt ruling. I'm a judge. It was literally just for no reason fighting you.
Yeah, exactly. I tried to broach them, and they were all keen on it, but I realized that they were trying to set me up. The way to go about that is, if you didn't want to be corrupt, was just to not engage with it and say, no, sorry, I can't do that. I'm not interested. And I would have left them alone.
But it was but they made it public, and all that. It was nasty. Not nasty, but it bloody. It tried to make it bloody, but it was pathetic. I remember my biggest
Yeah.
interaction with Masked Wolf was when I became AG, and Masked Wolf was one of the people leading the charge to try and get Deadwax to drop me as the AG choice. And they were Masked Wolf had like 7 people who were all threatening to quit the AG's office. They were messaging senators and everything like that, and I just shut it all down. And what I did is I played really nice with them all, and I coaxed all their fears, and I got them all on side. And Masked Wolf started to come round to my point of view, and then I got into office, fired half the department, and Masked Wolf Masked Wolf, who'd been threatening to quit and all that sort of stuff, stayed on, and bowed their head and towed the line. And it was really it was easy, right?
Yeah, I think like they just don't have a lot of political aptitude. And no offense, Mask. Like I'm sure you have a decent legal understanding. It just doesn't translate to politics at all.
Yeah, nice person, and that's exactly what hurts them.
That's not a good. It's not really a good sign when we say you're a good person in this list. I'm going to be saying
because I would say I'd say
F.
I'd say top of F.
I think a top.
Yeah, no, better than Marty. Marty's just all over the place.
Yeah. Now on to Matthew.
Matthew. Matthew's an interesting one because Matthew's well known.
You start off with Matthew.
Pardon?
Yeah,
Matthew's well. I thought you said you shut up about Matthew. Matthew's well known. God. Matthew's well known in a lot of circles, and he's well known as a figure. In terms of his political power and political knowledge, I really don't rate him quite high at all. Mainly because he's not really done anything political, and he's mainly been a lawyer.
Yeah, like Matthew likes the idea of politics, but he's not very good at it. Like I'm friends with Matthew. Like me and Matthew get on really well. We're good friends, but like he has burnt me so many times politically, and like if it wasn't a friendship relationship, like he would be dead weight. Like he would be, like I got him elected to the Senate. He wouldn't vote the way I needed him to on the key bills.
Yeah.
And then there was the whole Chief Justice fiasco, where he was like working with the opposition, people that wanted to remove him, and had tried to remove him like 2 months earlier against us, who was like the people that were on his side consistently. Like just like little things like that Matthew thinks is like not a big deal, but like
really is. There's a lot of people, and this is, if there's one thing that you take away from watching these videos that we've made, the one thing you can take away is when you're in an alliance with someone, do not unnecessarily burn those bridges. Yeah,
I would agree with that. Even if you're like against us, like, and you're with a different group, like stick with that group, like be consistent, because even if you break ranks with your group to come over to a different group, the group that you're coming to is just going to know that, oh, this person's a flipper. Like
that's the thing. And you'll need to do so much more to demonstrate your loyalty from that point on, and they'll never really trust you as well. So that level of consistency is really important.
For Matthew, really good at like the legal mind stuff.
I think good. I think some of his rulings are very, very suspect in their shakiness, I will say.
I think he's got good political theory. Like he doesn't really translate much as a politician. Like it's not somewhere he wants to really be. I don't think, or like is very, very skilled at. I think like he's probably D tier.
Yeah, I would say D tier. I would say top of D. Definitely better than Jonte, I would say.
I think Jonte's better than him.
I think Jonte's just too inconsistent, though.
I think Drew might be better than him.
Really?
Like Drew's like very much like on your side or against you. Like Drew like is
okay.
Like I remember everyone put Matthew and Urquhart for the whole like situation, but like Matthew was the flip boat and Drew was on our
really
side.
Difficult, yeah. Okay.
Yeah, I'm thinking Matthew there. Yeah.
Mad or Mad? How do you pronounce it? Madshire?
Mahad. Yeah, Mahad.
I thought it was Madshire. Oh.
No, yeah.
It just goes to show, really. First of all, that's a down mark. No, I'm kidding. Mahad. Mahad's for me has always been a staple of DC. Like, Mahad's always been there, right?
Yeah, he's like Mahad kind of like he's like a. If I was to describe like Mahad in DC, like he's like a Mitt Romney sort of Republican for DC. Like he's like someone that's like to like I'm just thinking political spectrum wise. He's to the right and like he has his beliefs, but like he's someone that you can always like cross the aisle with or whatever. And like I'm just using that example like from real life just as a comparable. Like it's if you're like working against Mahad, like he's someone that you can like talk to and negotiate with. And if he's in your camp, he's someone that's kind of always on the edge of your camp. Like if you do something too crazy, Mahad is not going to be on board for it.
Right. Yeah, absolutely. And one of the things I always think with Mahad is I always think back to like Mahad was always someone I could make a deal with, right? Until I really, until I started to go really off the rails with my stuff, and then Mahad would get cold feet and it'd be very difficult. Not cold feet as such, but Mahad would step back a little bit. But I remember a lot of my interactions with Mahad, sadly, have been versus interactions. Like I've always wanted to work. Mahad's always been someone I've wanted to work closely with. But I've never really been able to. I've never been in a position because Mahad, I think he tends to align himself with the goodies. And I think honestly,
I think Mahad just like wants to be in. Like he is a bit like he's a politician.
Yeah.
Like he wants to be in power and he's looking at ways to get into power. And like choosing the route of chaos and evil like generally is going to be like a bad way to stay in power.
I honestly think Mahad would be much happier on the dark side with us. And, Mahad, the water's fine. Come over. It's nice over here.
Like a few things I would say though, like he didn't really handle the whole laser situation better. Like he needed to drop laser when the chaos was going on and like win the presidency. That should have been the priority. Like you can patch up that bridge later and like give laser a position or whatever. But he wasn't quick enough on his feet there.
Had Mahad dropped laser, he probably could have gotten anyone else in and he still would have won the presidency. But by keeping laser, Deadback's won.
Yeah, like those quick decisions. Like even though I work with laser, like if there was a scandal and I was on a ticket, I would drop out to make sure the ticket won. Or if if it was the other way around, I would drop the person because like people need to like look at the bigger picture and not just themselves in these situations. Or like I'm hurting this person. Like you need to win.
Team game, right?
Yeah, it's about getting your side ahead. So other things like Mahad's had a big history. He's always been on the upper echelons of DC. He's always had a seat at the table. He was the leadership in Dusty's party, the NAP. He should have taken it over, and if he had, it would have made my life much more difficult. But Dusty gave it to JB for some reason, which was crazy. And then I just like tore that party apart. But Mahad was really like trying to keep it together and stuff, and was doing good work for their side. And he's really good at organizing people that way. Like he's definitely someone that you could like put in charge of a coalition or could like lead a coalition or even like a political party if he really put his mind to it. And when he joined the DRP, he was obviously he had a big seat at the table there. Was on the leadership committee with Bob and Austin and Inter, and a few other people that rotated through it.
Very good politician overall. I think on an overall basis, I would put Mahad as a B.
Yeah, I think B is definitely where he's at, and I think he is above Elena.
I think,
Is he above Inter?
I'm trying to think. I think maybe... I know I would personally prefer to work with Mahad over Inter.
And I think Mahad can whip votes as well. Like if Mahad was like keen on something, I think that's probably like... And there's not a whole pile between him and Gold. I think Gold
brand as well.
Yeah, I think Gold might just have a bit more consistency to him. That might be the only thing.
No, he's always been one of those people I've really admired, actually, in politics, in DC. Which shame I didn't work with him more. You never know. Always time. On to the crack. Good old milk crack. Oh,
milk crack, yeah.
For ages and ages and ages, I thought Milk Crack hated me. Maybe he did. Maybe he does.
Oh, he still does. Yeah.
Milk Crack will be watching this obviously on 2x speed. Apparently, who would know? Apparently, Milk Crack.
Or that painful to listen to. I guess.
Apparently, watching this on 2x speed. So what I'm going to do for Milk Crack's thing is I'm going to talk really fast. So what happens is basically whenever he's speaking, he's going to be like, "What the fuck is going
on?" Right. Yeah. Milk Crack. Someone that's always been like he joined politics. I remember
I don't really,
quite early.
I don't
like,
really remember Milkcrack in my first run at all.
Well, I'll give a bit of background. Milkcrack joined under the LRP with Pug Bandit. Was in that little break-off party from the DRP. We'll go into that with Pug Bandit a little bit more anyway. But he was supporting Austin for speaker. Like we cut a deal. Austin ended up in secretary, so it was a whole other thing. And Milkcrack became deputy speaker in his first term in the House, and kind of from then on out was always like a medium to upper, political heavyweight.
Milkcrack's always one of those people you can expect to be a cog in the machine.
Yeah, but he's always like a big cog.
He's always somewhere, doing something, and he's always very good at leveraging his position. I remember one of the big things I remember him was his fight with, was it Unity he was fighting over with for the president of the Senate?
I think so.
And he did that all by himself. Unity had quite a lot going for him, and Milkcrack really fucked up quite a, like there was quite a lot of people who were just like trying to give it to Unity because it'd be convenient, and Milkcrack really held that up. Really was a lot of problems.
He's a good politician overall. Like he's very well rounded, knows what he's doing, knows his value, is able to do things independently. He's never really led a political party. I feel he could though. I just don't think he wants to. And is very, and is maybe it's a little bit of an ambition thing. He's never like wanted to be president. I don't think. I think he's always kind of been happy to be in that number 2, 3 position.
If you do want to be president, give me a call. We'll sort something out.
I think for me, Milkcrack is definitely B.
Yeah, where in B though?
And I think he is up top of B.
Better than End, or I think he's not as good. I think End just slightly edges him out.
I think that's where he is. Yeah.
Yeah. Very good, very respectable position there.
Yeah.
Milky,
another kind of big heavyweight.
Yeah, there's a lot of M people on this server, isn't there? My God.
Mahad, Milkcrack,
Milky, Matthew, Masked Wolf. Maybe someone there is a little bit worse than the rest. Yeah, Milky. Milky's someone who I only had experience with. I'm not sure, when did Milky join?
Like I don't know, was it 2022?
Yeah,
2022.
I only experienced Milky in my second run on DC, my 80 days before I was banned.
One thing I will say is, like, 2022, that was like, I was there, I wasn't there at all. Like, there was no, like, Krix side, there was no Donut side, there was no Dusty, there was no anyone there. That was, like, a Diggy dictatorship at that point. Diggy ran that show, and Milky was the only one that had the political power to, like, put any hurdle at all in his way. Like, he was Diggy's, like, rival at that period. Like, he put up a fight. Like, he had Dead Wax on his corner, he had Wetsy on his side. Like, they had a coalition, and they were tight, and they worked together, and, like, Milky led that, and he did it very well.
A coalition of right-wing libertarian,
Yeah, but that was Milky that was, like, driving that and organizing that. That was no one else. That was
100% behind that side. And I remember, when I first came back, that was right when the Dead Wax, because it was originally the Milky Dead Wax ticket, wasn't it? Why did Milky step back? Just because?
There was some reason.
It was some personal reason, and then he more or less stepped back from the server completely. So I very much got to see the sort of end of his political reign, and I came in.
I think Diggy took him out. I think there was like a case or something that removed him from political office or something. Like,
he was removed for 3 months for corruption, I think.
Yeah, like that was a bitter rivalry at the time. I think Diggy did beat him out. Like, he was gonna.
But Milky was one of those people who I think, my thing with Milky is I think he's pretty, from what I've seen of him, little bits here and there, he is pretty bad at messaging. And like, he's really good at, like, sort of the scrap, and putting up hospitals. Yeah. But when it comes to, like, the political side of the messaging, the propaganda, the spreading a message and all that kind of stuff, I don't think at all he has any sort of, capabilities in that. I don't know. I mean, I remember I had a debate with Milky on one of the other random servers. We were both running for the same office, and it was just like it was running rings around him. It was really,
Yeah, he has weaknesses for sure, and I think that was obviously highlighted in that when he went against Diggy, like that was very difficult for him, and they didn't win that fight. And I think his political party was never going to be the political party of the server. Like it was always kind of,
wasn't it?
No, it was the Mad Hatter's party. The Pirate Party was like they tried to like cobble that together after he left. And like I remember talking to Milky because I was kind of interested in him at the time, just like what's this guy about, and he's like fighting Diggy, so I was interested to talk to him. And like his political party, like he always explained it to me, like they never wanted to like control the government. They did want to control it, but he was very focused on like incremental gains and having a really mobile, well coordinated political party, which I thought was really admirable and good. Like he was very focused on quality over quantity, and that was very apparent.
I think
how that
one of the big
ran.
things that struck me about the Mad Hatter Party, from what little I know of it, is I personally think it's really bad branding, because if you the Mad Hatter Party is coming up, it was around the same time as it was the Super Mario Party, right? And that was Diggy had the birthday party, then the ice cream party, then the Super Mario Party. And so, by Milky making his party, the Mad Hatter Party, he's letting Diggy seize that ground of the jokerifying names, right? And it's buying into Diggy, it's letting Diggy, it's cementing Diggy as that is the norm, right? And I think had Milky gone into it with a mind of like having a political party that was more serious and more, about, and had it gone less about friend and had it been, because they were all very political, they had ideology, right? Him and his party, right? And that was their strength, and they didn't lean into that at all. They played on Diggy's board,
I think that does go back to the messaging. But what do you call it? What I would say is, like Overlord came from that group. Like they were like a very mobile group. And like they voted together, they were consistent, they knew what they were doing. It just wasn't very big, and because of that, and the group that they were going against, they weren't going to win. But if they were in a different political environment, weaker like today's DC politics, they would have been very. They would have been top of the pile.
I think Milky goes. I would say there was a time when I would have said A tier, but.
I think honestly he's better than
I'd say I
don't know.
I wouldn't quite. Since then, I've had a lot of time to think on this, and I've seen him as well. And I would say probably top of B tier.
I don't know. I'm actually leaning more A, to be
Bottom
honest.
Bottom of A tier.
Maybe above Bob.
You think above Bob?
Yeah, maybe. Like Milky he led a political party, and he like fought tooth and nail with Diggy. Like it was very tight. Like he was never president though, and Bob was a very Bob was a very different type of politician. Right. Like Bob was always kind of that was never what Bob wanted to do. He was always.
I would personally say he's top of B tier. But if you say bottom of A tier, I'll be fine with that. But I wouldn't say he's better than Bob personally.
Yeah, it's very. I think it's close. Yeah, maybe bottom of B. Yeah, bottom of. We'll put him bottom of B. I just don't think he doesn't have that like infamous reputation. Like all these people up at A, I think they're like in the like big names in the history books.
Okay.
Yeah, I think that. Yeah.
Cool. And then I think we'll probably make this one the last one for today, because we have run about 20 minutes over anyway. So. Talking about fucking Krix, my god. But yeah, just know. Let's listen. For stupid people, you have to talk about a little bit. But no, as smart people, you have to talk a little bit. For stupid people, you really got to go in all in. Anyway, Mr. Fluffy.
Yeah, one of the people that joined under the RNP and became politically relevant.
Definitely one of the politicians of all time.
I would. Yeah, he was kind of one of our like good guys in the
RNP.
Like,
I remember him. I remember you talking about him a bit, and I remember he was always a bit shaky, if I remember correctly.
He was a wee bit shaky, but he always came through.
Yeah.
and he was always a little bit more competent. You know what I mean? Like like we had our puppets, we had me, and we had Laser at at a certain point just running the show, and Sentient was there for a while, and River and a few people, but he was always kind of in between. But like he always pulled his own weight. He got the votes himself. I didn't have to carry him in, which I basically had to carry everyone else in. And he wasn't bad. He could message somewhat. He could do everything to like an average standard. Like he's kind of your average politician, I guess. Yeah, I'd be putting him like C tier definitely.
Okay. I mean,
and
I
think he is
much. I personally, from what I've seen of him, would say D tier, just because.
No,
I always,
I don't
well,
think
you know
so.
him better than me, so from what I'd see, I would have said D tier. But
I think he's better than Alex. I think he's better than Andre. I think
he actually probably is. Is he AC? Yeah. Avalani. I wouldn't know about Avalani. She always had She did have her own kind of political thing going, didn't she?
I don't know. Somewhere around there, anyway.
Yeah. Okay. Cool. So, what we'll do is we will leave here for episode 4. My God, that was a long one. And we will pick up next week with Nacho. God, I can't say it. Can you say we'll pick up next week with who?
I'll pick up next week with Nacho.
Sorry. Sorry, it sets off a gag reflex for me. I don't know why. Anyway. God, I'm an asshole. See you next time, guys. Bye-bye.
Bye.